with, but we really try to go just with the flow on this. Comments, if you can see, comments should be Chris putting anything that comes in, because we are on X, we're on YouTube and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But so he tries to just pull any comments that come from any of those sources. Sometimes he'll throw the name in there, or sometimes he won't. But we are live, my friends. And how lucky am I to be here with Jeremiah, Jator, the two J's, and myself, talking about all things employee wellness and beyond. So first, want to kick it off, though, we need to always start with our medical disclaimer that from the Ovadia and Ovadia Heart Health team, this is not personal medical information. This is truly intended as educational, informational, and we hope inspirational for anything well-being concerned, but it is not personal medical information. Do contact the team if that is something you're interested in at team@ifixhearts.com. And please do put your comments in the chat wherever you are, if you're on X, if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on YouTube. And wow, yes, December. Exciting month, or maybe not exciting month. I suppose it depends on your perspective, right? But Jator, Wally, welcome for joining us. We're super excited to have you here today. And you know best what you're doing and what your interests are and a little bit of background, but you fill in our live audience on that for us today?
Yeah. Let's see. My name is Jator Pierre. I'm really interested in mental and emotional health and how that kind of plays a role in, well, what you guys are really interested here in metabolic health. And my history really quickly, I was obese as a child, and through kind of untangling that, finding all of these interesting roots that were emotional roots, mental roots, behavioral roots. And it has taken me somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 plus years to untangle that entire yarn. I'll take that back. It's not entirely untangled, quite untangled. But going through that fat loss journey, metabolic ill health in general, inflammation, not sleeping well, kind of, let's just say, reactive emotional responses. I just got deeply interested in what makes us tick and why we do what we do, and got deeply into coaching and working with others, trying to unravel that same yarn ball, not necessarily in fat, but any challenge that a person has. My experience has been that our challenges are downstream to what we believe about ourselves, and what we believe about ourselves then kind of speaks to our emotions and our thoughts, and that then speaks to our autopilot behaviors, and then that creates the environments that we find ourselves in. And so with Christmas coming up, many of us are already on autopilot behavior, and kind of maybe challenged with I've been working on getting healthy, and I'm going to Christmas parties, and I'm going to be around family, and what's the experience going to be like? And so I guess I'm here to share a little bit of how we can do that with a little bit more ease and grace. Maybe 2025, maybe slightly more graceful. If you start now, 2026 will be much more graceful.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks so much for sharing your personal story, and congratulations on the unraveling process. And this is just fabulous for our community, because so many things, it's not just the weight, but as you say, the emotional baggage, yarn, who we define ourselves are. maybe you can share some of your tactics. I see someone's tapping in from Brooklyn. All right, we're coast to coast here. Welcome, Sherry from Brooklyn. Share, maybe a tactic that you utilize, particularly in this holiday time. We're always looking at we're looking at the individual, of course, but we do employee wellness programs. So we like to broaden that scale to the wider group, but it all comes down to the individual, right?
Yeah. Let's see. It's probably my hardest place to speak on is practicalities. My work is not very practical. So this is a good challenge, Krisna. Thank you.
Well, it fits in nicely from where we were at a couple of sessions ago. So it was like our commitment to come on here, finish the year strong every Monday, talk about employee wellness, but certain topics within that bigger, element, if you will. Mental health was one of them, finishing the year strong, really tackling the holidays the right way with great energy, enthusiasm, definitely diet and nutrition at the center of it. So you fit in beautifully to what we're talking about. And, like Krisna said, we're excited to have you here. It's an honor.
Perfect. So I think if we're going to take something practical that I've learned over the years that is often overlooked and I think might be actually the key to change. And that key is, it might sound a little cliche, but that key is awareness. And it's not just like passing awareness. It's deeply getting in contact with, as an example, you're planning on going to see your family. I'm going to go see my family in a week. So you're planning on doing that in a week. And what does awareness mean just with that? Awareness means, well, what are the emotions that you're feeling when you think about planning to see your family? Like, tap into those emotions. Let yourself notice those emotions. Fear, anger, joy, excitement, frustration. Just take a moment to notice when you're planning what comes up, what emotions, and be present with those emotions. Let yourself feel them. That might just be an easy step one. Next step, get in contact with what your thoughts are. What am I thinking about my time with my family? It's going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to be amazing. My mom is going to be saying all the normal stuff, or my dad, or whatever your story is. Maybe it's a very beautiful and easy story, but take note and become aware of what your narratives are, what you're creating before even going on that journey. And then as you're taking note of your emotions and you're taking note of your thoughts, then kind of take note of what are my typical behaviors in those environments? How do I typically act? What's my downstream behaviors that I act out when I'm around my family that are driven by my thoughts, that are driven by my emotions, and that I reactively act out without being aware of it happening? So to take this home maybe a little easier, I'm guessing some of you have driven to work. And you pull up to work and you don't even remember the drive to work. You weren't actually present on the drive. You were somewhere else. Your mind was projecting into the future or projecting into the past, but you weren't actually here. Your body's systems took over for the drive, but you were somewhere completely different. And the same thing happens when we're going into these often more emotionally challenging environments like being with our family. And if we can become more aware of how we're feeling, how we're thinking, then that starts to give you the ability to intercede before you act. So instead of reactively acting with your family, simply by paying attention before going, you can start to say, I'm going to notice when my emotions come up and my thoughts come up, and I'm going to take a breath before I speak. And then I'm going to choose what I want to say. Or I'm going to go, if I always go right with my family, I'm going to take a left. Why is this all important? Well, it's important because if you're on a health journey, and historically you haven't been on a health journey, and your family historically hasn't been on a health journey, welcome to the world, my friends. You are going to stand out, and people are going to be triggered by your journey, and they're going to be afraid of who you're becoming, and they're not going to know who you are anymore. And they're going to want you to fit back in because they're going to want you to be who you've always been. And unless you have a great deal of awareness, that's why I said maybe this would be more graceful in 2026. Unless you have a great deal of awareness, it's very easy to get pulled back into those familiar patterns around food, around sleep, around family, around relationships, all kind of boiling back into your relationship with yourself. So that goes back to awareness. How do we get to know ourselves? Slow down. Take a moment. Feel your emotions. The whole spectrum. So many of us are taught as children just to stay in positive emotion. And then we become afraid of negative emotion. And the more fear we have of these emotions, the less we understand what they're sharing because we don't speak their language. We're disconnected from them. And so by just taking a moment before planning your trip, I feel angry. And let yourself feel that anger for a minute. Let it saturate in your body. What does it feel like? What do you notice? What thoughts come up around your anger? And again, all of this in just kind of building this internal experience of awareness so that you have a higher ability to intercede in your impulses, which will change not only your body and your heart and your metabolism, but it will change your life. It'll change how you experience yourself. And I don't know that that's actually possible without some level of awareness, right? iFix Hearts, you all are bringing a level of awareness to your clients for reflection of often information that they don't have. And so, I'll stop there. And
that's a wealth of information. Wow. And really insightful. So much to unpack there, but awareness that you might be on that different path. I really like that point. I just want to kind of interject here. Sherry from Brooklyn has put in something very similar. Reflection on past times helps me. And, tapping into maybe at this time of the year, also she mentions employee assistance programs that might have some type of counseling or coaching involved. Certainly the type of coaching that Jator does is very much in this realm. And she also mentioned taking advantage of, support groups that, we've talked, I know Jator, you and I have talked about, group coaching. Group coaching has a different dynamics. And that's one of the things that Jeremiah and I are working on with our employee wellness programs. We want to work on the individual level, but sometimes the awareness, reflection often can happen when you hear someone else tell their story. Certainly when you were talking, I was kind of thinking, I wonder, immediately reflections of my own stories. But I don't know, Jeremiah, if you had something you wanted to put in.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that, the awareness at the root of it, at the heart of it, the center of it. Tell me a little bit more, Jator, and I know you had gotten into it a little bit as you're giving us some nuggets there. The HOL method, can you unpack that for us a bit? Because I think that this is a good time to talk about that.
Yeah, so the HOL method is just the Holdup method. So I kind of just spoke to the H of that, which it sounded cool for me, which is hold up. So awareness, it means, to take stock of everything I was just kind of sharing. Before I continue to the O and L, something Krisna said that, and I think our friend that wrote in is also really important. The idea of a community, why is that important? Well, in this context, your family is your community of origin, and your community of origin has principles and values that you were raised with, whether you like them or not. It can get a little bit more complex, but essentially you have this community of origin. And as you're going through the change process, as Krisna just stated, having a community that has the values and principles of who you want to be and are trying to be is really supportive to that change process, because then you're in another environment and you're also surrounded by other people who are doing the same things as you. Because when we go back into our family of origin, like going back for the holidays, we will inevitably, unless we're very aware, kind of get sucked back into who you've always been in that family. Just take stock right now. Most of you, if your family lives at the house that you grew up in, I guarantee or take a bet, every one of you are going to sit at the same place you sat at when you were a kid.
Yeah.
And that just speaks to this like inundation of like autopilot that we're on and our family is on. So having a community that's different than that, that's supportive, can be really helpful to your change process. So we have that hold up, which is getting in touch with your emotions. And again, when I say getting in touch, it's not like it's not a pass. It's really, I feel angry, and letting yourself soak in that and feel it. So we have that noticing your thoughts, and that's the observing part. After we're letting ourselves feel those, and the more we start to understand our emotional expression, then we can also start to pull away. So we can start to become the observer of these parts of self, the observer of our emotions. And that observance helps us not to get so deeply sucked into them as we start to feel these new emotions, which many of us often avoid. Avoidance is a pretty typical mechanism that we use to avoid feeling, to avoid speaking, to avoid being really honest. I think that's one of the beauties of the coaching environment, is it's actually, the invitation in the coaching environment is that it is blatantly honest. And how many of us actually have a place where we're really 100% honest with what we're feeling, with what we're thinking, what we're perceiving, what our needs are, what our experiences are. So we can build that observance by holding up and by dropping in. And then the last one is listen, is starting to reflect, starting to listen to what all of this is sharing with you. What does it mean to you to go home for the holidays? If we were to sit down at a museum and paint a picture of you at the holiday party with your family, a picture holds 1,000 words. I'd say a picture holds 1,000 narratives too. So if we sat down and we looked at you and going to your family, what does it mean to you? And to start to listen to that. Where are the parts of you that you didn't feel seen, or you didn't feel like you had a voice, or I always had to be who my mom wanted me to be, or I always had to be who my dad wanted me to be. I still don't act like myself when I'm with my family. And so we start to listen to what's going on in our mind and in our heart, and that can give us a much broader picture of why, for many of us, the holidays are stressful and painful and not that much fun. maybe because they remind us of how much we hide from ourselves and how much we don't authentically show up as who we really are with our families. And that's painful. And so we feel this pain, and we feel maybe resentment, and we feel this stuff that we've listened to from looking at this picture. And then the projection becomes, well, it's my family's fault, or it's my family that causes all of this. And there's some truth to that too, so I don't want to discount that piece. But there's also your experience and what you've created and how you show up, and the resentment that you hold toward yourself for not being who you want to be with your family. I want my family to really know me, but I'm afraid for them to really know me, because if they really know me, maybe they won't like me and maybe they'll leave. And so the Holdup method is just awareness, building your ability to observe yourself, slow down and intercede in your kind of autopilot reactive behaviors. And the listening part is probably the deepest part, but that one is really listening to the parts of you from childhood or teenage years that are there playing in the background all the time, but we just don't listen to them. We don't pay attention to them. And I'd ask you all to consider that one of the reasons the holidays bring so much up is because we're often reminded of our family of origin. And many of us have a lot of unprocessed pain from our family of origin that shows up in when we're reminded of these times. So,
and I'm just going to interject another comment here from Shirley, talking about communities. You talked about family of origin community and building your other communities to support you. She makes the point of saying, she had no problems with Thanksgiving and doesn't expect to have any with Christmas and New Year's, because everyone knows I'm eating this way for my health. So that's a really important thing that we've talked about in some of our earlier sessions, of making it clear, as you talk about, Jator, of kind of where you are now. This is who I am now. I'm eating this way. And she went on to state, Shirley, Shirley's from Texas, that they may not agree, but they understand and no pushing. And whether you're going as deep into this reflection and observation, we see a lot of strength that people are gaining and confidence gaining by also just being clear about where they are now on their journey of the things that are important to them, that sleep is important, that, metabolic health, that they're maybe in a new place than they were at a previous holiday.
Yeah, she sounds like she has a great supportive family. That makes it
easier.
A little easier.
Yeah. So talked a little bit about your method. We try to keep these meetings kind of to the shorter side of life. These are conversations that really should go on for hours. I'm sure that's why people are doing the 2 and 3 hour podcasts. But if you thought about this coming 2025, there's going to be a lot of changes, and this is not to get too political here, but we're obviously going to have a change of administration. We're seeing more conversation about metabolic health, which from our perspective at the Ovadia team is a win. Anytime we can get this conversation out in the open, we're excited about it. We know people are on different sides of the aisle. What do you see as sort of some key things within how you work with individuals on their own health, as just little nuggets to take home with them for the next year? I just took one from you, and that is just stop and pause. Maybe there's something else like that, because Jeremiah and I are on the practical side with our Monday get-togethers. What would be some little things like that you would be willing to share with us?
Yeah, thank you, Krisna. I think you put one out there that speaks greatly. Is what are some little nuggets? Yeah. And I think the little nuggets that I often notice in my own personal practice is change takes time.
Yeah.
And so that's why, where I was saying like 2026, maybe we'll have more grace that was on purpose, because there's many of us have this narrative that one, change should happen quickly. Yeah. Two, if it doesn't, there's something wrong, and that something wrong is often me. The person, like I did something wrong, I'm not good enough, some level of fear or some kind of shame. And I would just offer up that give yourself the grace of planning these change processes out for a year. If you're on a metabolic health journey, where will I be a year from now as I'm taking these small steps toward that goal or toward that intention? You're on a fat loss journey. Why plan out for too much? Just where will I be in a year when I'm doing this slowly, steadily, and creating motivation by completion and following through? Many of us want to take such big bites. We get very excited about change and excited about losing body fat or excited about getting healthy. And if we go right back to that ball of yarn, my experience is that as you start pulling on one of those strings very fast, it can be very shocking to your system, and then you can start to self-sabotage. Self-sabotage starts to come in, and you don't complete what you set out to do. So just slow down, everyone. We're inundated with so much information, and the internet, I don't know, moves at the speed of light or something like that. And there's this like unwritten expectation that this should all happen fast. And I'd just offer up that slow and steady is completely appropriate. It gives you time to learn along the way. Healing is more of a zigzag than it is a linear process. It's not a straight line. Set yourself up with that thought process so that you're not surprised. Know you will take a step back and take another step forward. And keep that future in mind. Where, if I follow this plan, where will I be in a year?
And you know what? Sherry just wrote in, I like that. Where will I be in 1 year? Slow and steady wins the race. So this is a fabulous way to end. Jeremiah, I didn't know if you had any one last comment, but Jator, your work is very unique and, so helpful to so many. And we're honored you just could come in and share a few of your nuggets with us. And we'd love to have you back. This is a conversation. Yes.
Anytime.
I think a couple of things. I mean, like the long game, that's where true awareness comes from. It doesn't come right away. You spoke about awareness, really the root of this whole call. I enjoyed that. That's what we're doing here, friends. It's the long game. And Sherry, you said it too, right? Slow and steady wins the race, right? And when you look at this race, this is like a very long, not a sprint. So if you're going to sprint, like Jator said, you might run into this self-sabotage, these traps that are there. But we'd like to have you back, Jator, for sure. And just a quick reminder for you guys to dig into our material. Krisna's solid white paper is another one just right on the release coming to you guys. We have our consultation. That's free if you want to dig in and talk to Krisna and I and Employee Wellness. your strategy for next year, what you're doing, how to take advantage of our program, what we're doing that's different, how we're making a tremendous impact. And then we'll be back here next week, but a bit of a break with the holidays. So just stay tuned to our schedule on X, LinkedIn, and all of the mediums. But any questions for Jator? Here we go. Let's just open it up here for any specific question. It's been a few more minutes, and then we will leave you until next Monday.
And we have our white papers that you can download. As Jeremiah just said, we've got 2 already out there, one on sedentary behavior, one on mindset. The 3rd one on addiction will be coming out this week. And I'm just looking here. One of the things that Sherry had put in there too is sometimes we just have to find ways of making adjustments that work best for us during times of change. And great, sort of final thought there, and because health is personal and sustainability is personal, you have to make it work for you. And put as many tools in your toolbox, because if you're going on the journey with Jator, we need time.
You need team. You got a good team.
We need a team.
Here. We'll help you rally. Great session, Jator.
Okay, right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good to see y'all. Appreciate
Well done.
it.
Cheers.
Bye.